How do I do this? How do I tell you that your tomorrows will be precisely as your yesterdays in today's? How do I tell you that your hope for a better tomorrow is the only thing that you have left? And the reality of the situation is, hope actually isn't anything at all. Hope is a leaf in the wind, and lint in the miniature pocket that lines the front pocket of your jeans. As the words for this discourse begin to take shape, your mind will move through different thought spheres. Your mind may tell you that by telling you that your tomorrow will be the same as your yesterday's, I am trying to motivate you. Your mind will tell you that I am playing reverse psychology. I think by now, it has become abundantly clear to those who follow my work that I do not subscribe to psychologists or psychology, or gurus, or motivational speakers, or golf swing instructors, or priests, or sports psychologists, or self-help books, or anything else. If there is any form of a helper I have left out, please add him to the list as well. I believe no one. I trust no one. I put faith in no one. I subscribe to no one. I follow no one. Any societal tenets are bumper stickers. All societal concepts are lies that have been recycled throughout the centuries. This being the case, I do not think it will be difficult to accept that I am not playing a game of reverse psychology. Human beings use time as a wishing well, since they do not know what is going to happen tomorrow. They fill this not knowing with heaps of hope and anticipation. As each tomorrow comes and reveals its true colors, they ignore it and look toward the next morning. As long as there is another tomorrow, there is still hope. This is how human beings think. And even as I say these words, there are many who are listening that will wonder, what is wrong with this? After all, this sort of philosophy is the staple diet of motivational speakers. Let us enter the domain of reality, as unpopular as it may be to do so. Imagine that you have 10,000 more tomorrows. As you hang on for dear life to this idea called hope, you will keep looking for the next good tomorrow. Imagine that on the 2356th tomorrow, something good happens to you. A few things will happen on this day. First, your mind will say, "Ha, see, my tomorrows are not like my todays." Second, your mind will bet any and all chips that remain on the roulette wheel of hope. After all, look what happened today. But in succumbing to the mind's antics, what you will not have realized is that this 2356th day has happened several times before. Do you understand? Allow me to share with you a golf analogy. When a tour player makes a 40-foot putt, the crowd cheers, the commentators cheer, and the players cheer. When a tour player makes a hole-in-one, the crowds cheer, the commentators cheer, and the players cheer. Why do they cheer? Do they cheer in order to celebrate how great this golfer is? Do they cheer because there is something special about a 40-footer that they lie in bed dreaming about? Certainly not. Then why do they cheer? They cheer because a 40-footer going into the hole is so rare. They cheer because this successful 40-footer stands as a bright red triumph in a bland and monochromic ocean of failures. This is why they cheer. Several years ago, my older son made a hole-in-one on the 11th hole at the country club of Charleston. It could be argued that this is among the most diabolical par 3s anywhere in the world. It is a hole so difficult that Sam Snead made a 13 on it once. And Ben Hogan said once, your greens are beautiful, but what you need for that 11th hole is about 5 sticks of dynamite. I must confess something about that day my son made that hole-in-one on hole 11. After the ball went into the hole, there were high fives on the tee box. The entire tournament field was buzzing about it. And as much as I wanted to say something congratulatory, I simply couldn't generate the emotion. When we arrived on the green, I could no longer withstand the internal conflict. So I acquiesced and said to my son, "Nice shot." This has happened many times before during my son's tournaments. Hole-in-ones and hole-outs from the fairway, followed by not a single word from my lips. Why? It isn't strategic. I am not being wise or clever. It isn't a good thing or a bad thing. It is just that I do not get excited by things that cannot be reproduced. My initial reaction after the ball went into the hole was, let's see you do it again. Because if you do it again, now we have a system. That would be exciting. That would be satisfying. Because if I have a system that produces a reliable and predictable result, I own the game. That is what my entire life is based upon. Whether it is teaching golf, conquering the mind, or discovering the truth. So that 2356th day that makes you believe that hope works. That 2356th day that implies to you that the tide of your life has turned, and from that day forward, all of your days will be 2356 days, is simply a hole-in-one. For if we were to lucidly and dispassionately analyze the results, out of 500,000 days, there might be 12 2356 days. If we look at the trajectory of one's life, we see that there are flat lines and valleys for over 93% of his life, and upward ticks and peaks for the remaining 7%. Each of these upward ticks and peaks are sustained or linear. They are preceded and followed by decades of flat lines and valleys. Tides do not turn, they simply come and go. And they go infinitely more often than they come. It would be wise not to share these results with an optimist or a positive thinker, for he will immediately deem it to be a threat to his rose-colored glasses, and he will have you thrown out of his house. If you read my message on Twitter yesterday, you will have been given an ironclad truth that every human can take to the grave. Everything is a scam. And I will tell you as surely as I am sitting here now, that almost all of those who commented, liked, and retweeted this message, there is not a single one of them who knows just how wide and deep this truth extends. They certainly agree with the statement. If I were to make yesterday's tweet personal, if I were to say that, I know that you buy the fact that everything in society is a scam, but now let us talk about what is a scam in your very own life. There perhaps wouldn't be as much excitement. The likes and retweets would probably be less. You struggle to see things the way they are. Why? Because you have been so deeply and irreversibly conditioned by society and its minions that even your attempt to crawl out of this hole are in fact a masked attempt to crawl into another one of society's gopher holes. My words will likely do nothing for you. Why? Because your mind will play a trump card that you will likely not be able to trump. It will say to you, are you going to believe this man? Are you really going to believe that everyone in the world is wrong, and this is the only one in the world who is right? It will be almost impossible for you to get over this one. The mind is exquisitely clever, is it not? It will become even more impossible once I tell you that I don't give 2 cents about being right. The impossibility will reach a fever pitch, that there is not a single drop of hyperbole in my voice when I tell you that virtually everything that you have ever heard is fundamentally divorced from the truth. And the impossibility will be clinched, putting a smile on your mind's face when I tell you the following. With deep respect for the glory that is your human nature, I must confess that in the same way that no feeling arose within me that day my son made a hole-in-one, no feelings arise within me with regard to whether you learn the truth or not. Truth be told, I don't really try to help anyone. I just sink into the deep depths of truth. Whatever words arise, they arise. I really don't do anything myself. It just comes. If humanity benefits, fine. If humanity sinks into a well of conflict and despair, fine. I do not care about you, for I do not even care about myself. Because I know, as certain as the sun rises in the east, that the self is the greatest of all lies. The truth is, you are going to die, not having realized the truth. You are going to die, not having known the truth about the mind. You are going to die, not having known the truth about the source of otherworldly performance. You are not going to be Tiger Woods. Could you have been? The truth is yes, without an inch of positive thinking. But in order to have been Tiger, you would have had to have a particular form of DNA, not the one that you think. The DNA that you would have had to become Tiger Woods is not the DNA of talent. For the truth is, most players on the tour have enough talent to be a Tiger. I won't spend much time on this, because it isn't worth my time to attempt to convince the unconvincible. I will only leave you with this question. It isn't a question I wish to discuss or debate with anyone. It is a question for yourself. Imagine that a given professional golfer has 2 wins on the PGA Tour. If you are convinced that Tiger's prolific history of winning is primarily the result of his talent, then what you are saying is that Tiger is 40.5 times more talented than the player with 2 wins. What you're saying is that Tiger is 4,000% more talented than the player with 2 wins. I will leave that with you. Do with it what you will. The DNA that you would have had to become Tiger Woods is the DNA of a natural willingness to entertain. That the way that you have always looked at golf and the things that you have for so many years conclusively believed are a bold-faced lie. A human being who is willing to even entertain that his beliefs are lies is as rare as the Hope Diamond. Because in order for a human being to have this exceptionally rare sort of DNA, he would have to have the DNA to withstand the torture of coming to the realization that he has wasted, at the very least, the last decade of his life. And this is not a thing that can be withstood by mortal men. The truth is that you are going to die without having arrived at satisfaction, permanence, ultimateness, no mind, nirvana, enlightenment, wisdom, or whatever word you wish to use. What will continue to happen is what has already been happening for so many years. What should you do? Is there nothing you can do? Humans do not get a say as to what they become obsessed by. What if you commit yourself to the truth? It will not work. Why? Firstly, because a man always defaults to his defaults, he can swim against the tide for only a few feet. Second, because commitment and discipline are untruths. Yes, another lie that your trainer, psychologist, parents, and motivational speakers have told you. There is no such thing as stick to it. If you force yourself to stick to it, it'll only be a matter of time before you become unstuck. How many lies do you want me to expose in one discourse? How much of your life do you want me to take apart in a single sitting? Perhaps it would be more gentlemanly and appropriate to take apart your life and your lies over time. Commitment and discipline are forced endeavors. Anything that a man does by force or willpower is not natural. That which is not natural is never truly grasped at its highest of heights. It is a going through the motions. The marrow of the thing can never be had by way of passengerless vehicles, such as commitment, discipline, or willpower. I am simply stating the truth. Your life moves through waves of motivation, and each time the tide recedes, the verve behind your understanding recedes with it. The truth can only be had if it strikes a chord in your heart, the way that the barrel of a 9mm Smith & Wesson strikes the hard palate when it is shoved into your mouth. There is no should. There is only is. The truth is that your tomorrows will be the same as your todays. The truth is that your hope and salvation for that 2356th day, that glorious day that you think will be a turning point in your life, is actually a nickel for your troubles. It is a half-opened packet of 3-inch gauze tossed on the pavement within reaching distance of your left arm as a merciful gesture for the blood you have been spilling over the last 40 years. That 2356th day is a scam.